A very good afternoon to you. It is the 12th of April, the year 2023. It is 1 p.m. and we are live here at the Broadcasting House at the heart of Nairobi City. Thank you for tuning in to Lunchtime News. I am Nissie, Imano. Now, a woman in Kainuk area near the border of Turkana and West Pokot counties has been shot dead by armed bandits believed to have come from West Pokot. According to the area chief, Sarah Lochodo, the 70-year-old woman was shot when she was on her way to fetch water from a nearby river.
Nilikuwa natoka Kitale na kuja Lodo. Fika Kainuku nikakuja nilikuwa na approach Kakong. Na watu wakatokelezea kando kama watu 4 hivi. Alafu wengine tena walikuwa wanafuata nyuma 4. Na marisasi ikaanza. Hapo ilikuwa tu ni kujitetea sana na kuendesha gari kwa kazi kwa sababu hakuna vile ningesimama.
And today we have 2 cases of a banditry attack along the highway where bandits actually attacked a truck. One of the injured persons is a county staff who is critically injured. However, they are currently receiving medication in the hospital. We are currently actually even receiving reports that one of the villages has been attacked by bandits. So we expect casualties anytime from now.
And a Form 4 candidate at Nyabisia Mixed Boarding Secondary School in Kisii County is nursing injuries inflicted on his genitals following an assault by his teachers. The victim is said to have resisted accompanying his teachers to the office after being caught in possession of exam material that prompted the teachers to administer corporal punishment on him.
At Hema Hospital in Kisii County, the learner narrated what transpired that led to the assault by the teachers.
Hapo ndio wenzake walinishika mikono na akaanza kunifunga na kamba. Kwa hiyo harakati ya kunichapa niliweza kuhisi kwamba amenipiga sehemu zangu za ujana, nikamsihi aweze kunisamea lakini hakusikia. Maji nienda kwa bafu niteka shawa. Hapo ndio wanafunzi waliniuliza damu nayo inamwagika ni ya nini. Niliweza kuvua shoti ambayo nilikuwa nimevalia na kutazama kweli damu ilikuwa inamwagika kutoka sehemu zangu za ujana.
Dr. Steven Akach, who attended to the Form 4 candidate, confirmed the injuries on the left side of the student's genitals, noting that the wound had however been successfully repaired for restoration to normalcy.
For this patient it was reversible, and the intervention was done in time, and the left testis was conserved. So the repair was done, and we expect the boy to be having a viable testis and able to get a child later on in life.
He, however, called upon teachers to refrain from administering such punishment, warning that some injuries are irreversible.
Maybe what we can plead to the teachers is that they involve parents in cases they can't handle to avoid such occurrences, and also parents to collaborate with teachers to ensure that appropriate disciplinary measures are taken.
Currently, the authorities are on the lookout for the suspects who are at large. The incident becomes the 3rd case in the region reported of teachers assaulting students. Opicho Chemtai for Lunchtime News.
Elsewhere, the Association of Public Health Officers in Kenya have linked the recent outbreak of cholera in some parts of the country and institutions of learning to a lack of human resource in curbing waterborne and communicable diseases. Led by the Secretary General Mohamed Duba, the public health officers say that the shift of focus from preventive to curative health has since rendered most of them unemployed, a state that has seen repetitive outbreaks of various communicable diseases which could have otherwise been prevented at inception levels by public health officers through immunization, screening, or health promotion campaigns.
Shift of focus from preventive and promotive health to curative medicine. There's no employment of public health officers at both national and very minimal employed at the county level. And yet this is an important cadre that has helped to prevent and in some cases, even eradicate communicable diseases.
Elsewhere, the State Department for Social Protection is shifting the focus of rehabilitation of street families from the children homes to family and community care. According to the chairperson of Street Families Rehabilitation Trust Fund, Mary Wamboi, rescue, reintegration and resocialization of street families into community care will solve the problem that occurs when those placed in the achieve 18 years. The fund will also conduct a national census of street families, which will help in planning on how to zero-rate street families.
Today is the International Day for Street Children. It is observed on the 12th April annually to provide a voice for children who live on the street. Kenya has a total of 46,639 people living on the streets, out of which 72.4% are male, according to the 2018 National Census of Street Families report. Street Families Rehabilitation Trust Fund chairperson Mary Wamboi noted that through the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection, they are working with partner institutions including rehabilitation centers, religious institutions and children's homes to holistically address the problem of street families.
This is our concern because as a government, we want to see our children, all the people, because even there are big people who have been there throughout, to be somewhere where they can be taken care of.
While calling for more budgetary allocations, the Trust Fund chair observed that some of the adversities street families faces are limited access to basic healthcare, physical violence, and poor living conditions due to lack of proper shelter.
This is a big challenge because it can be a big challenge in our economy and also in the future when we are going to have a lot of floods. If we are not going to take care for those street families, we can get a big problem because they can come on the town and they can do everything what they want.
The Trust Fund termed the upcoming census of street families as a milestone that will help them come up with a concrete plan for expanding the capacity of rehabilitation centers across the country.
Census will basically give an overview of the characteristics and the numbers, the figures of the street families in the country for purposes of planning and budgeting for them.
Jacqueline Masharia for Lunchtime News.
A section of women leaders from Nairobi now want the Ford Kenya party to appoint Tongaren Member of Parliament Murambi Chikati as the party's Secretary General to replace Chris Wamalwa, who has since been appointed as the Chief Administrative Secretary. Speaking after a meeting in the party's headquarters in Nairobi, the party has exuded confidence in the leadership of the first-time lawmaker, saying he is capable of transforming the party. This even as a section of the leaders from the party called for appointment of the Secretary General with a national outlook. Timothy Kipnusu reports.
A section of women leaders in Nairobi now want the Ford Kenya party to quickly put its house in order. The leaders who want the position of the Secretary General failed to enable the party conduct its business without any difficulty. The leaders have called on the party organ to appoint Tongaren Member of Parliament Murambi Chikati to replace Chris Wamalwa as the new party Secretary General.
Hatutaki kujua watu wengine wanataka nini, lakini sisi kama Women League, na sio sisi peke yetu, kwa kila county tutahakikisha ya kwamba tunamuunga mkono wa mama wa Ford Kenya Women League wamemuunga mkono Mheshimiwa Chikati. Bungoma ndio imepitisha kura za urais, kumaanisha ya kwamba Bungoma ndio ina determine leadership ya Kenya.
Tunamwidhinisha yeye akuwe katibu mkuu wa chama cha Ford Kenya. Sababu ni hizi. Unajua uongozi si kwamba mnatoka pamoja ama mnatoka wapi. Uongozi ni
Tunataka kwanza mtu ambaye ako very steadfast and very loyal, especially to kwa chama. Kwa sababu gani ninasema hivi? Hapa nyuma, hapo awali tumeshapata maneno ambayo mliona wakati kulikuwa na coup.
Meanwhile, political leaders in Siaya County are scrambling for members, with the Movement for Democracy and Growth and United Democratic Alliance launching separate membership drives to bolster their numbers.
We are very sure and determined that through the leadership of Honorable David Ochieng and this government of Kenya Kwanza, the Luo Nyanza are going to get liberation of multi-party democracy, which is the core reason why most of Luo leaders have been fighting for.
On, the Samburu County government has been urged to invest heavily in water infrastructure to meet the growing demand for the precious commodity. The World Vision says the drastic growth in population has stretched the region's water supply, hence the need to sink more boreholes across the county. The Water and Sanitation Company says with a population of over 300,000, the county faces a bleak future if better options are not explored to cushion locals against water scarcity.
Some of the key initiatives that we have done is sponsoring of the water tanks in the northern corridor areas. Our environment is conserved by having water accessible in all areas and in all persons.
People today connected by and having tap water in the region of only 3,000. It's an indication that we still have a long way to go to provide tap water for communities.
But there is potential for groundwater in Samburu that has not been exploited very well. We have done new boreholes in Samburu, and most of them have had good water quality.
In Kajiado County, the war against female genital mutilation is said to be bearing fruit owing to concerted efforts by anti-FGM crusaders. According to the Kenya Demographic Health Survey 2014, FGM prevalence stood at 78% in the county. This has, however, reduced by 15%.
Tumepunguza hiyo sasa, hatuko 78, tumekuja mbele kidogo like 63. Kwa hivyo tunaendelea vizuri.
Pia tumegundua ya kwamba kuna a lot of emerging issues. Wakati ambapo tunaangalia issue ya FGM, kuna issues ambazo zinajitokeza ambazo wakati tukitengeneza sheria hatuku anticipate. So tunaomba kwamba tunapoendelea ku review tunapendekeza mikakati tofauti.
Kulikuwa na COVID, kumekuwa na kiangazi, lakini licha ya hayo pia tunaona tumepiga hatua.
Moving on, Budalangi Member of Parliament Raphael Wanjala has urged President William Ruto to lower the high cost of living that is burdening most Kenyans. Wanjala, who was dispersing bursaries in Mau Mau, said lowering the prices of basic commodities such as unga, cooking oil and electricity will give citizens relief. At the same time, he called on religious leaders and economic experts to also give their opinion as the nation seeks solutions to current challenges.
Hii basari itawezesha mtoto wangu kuendelea kwa masomo kwa sababu alikuwa ametoka shuleni kwa ajili ya upungufu wa karo ya shule. Sasa nashukuru sana kwa sababu nimepunguziwa mzigo. Na mtoto wangu ataendelea kusoma, atakaa shuleni, hata masomo yake atafaulu vizuri.
Sasa tungeomba tu serikali iongeze mkono kidogo ili tupate, kwa sababu kuna watoto wengine ambao hawatoki kwa wodi hii, wanasomea nje ya Budalangi.
Kuna watu wa nje ambaye hatuwezi kuwafungia nje, pia wako na mambo yao. Kwa hivyo tunaunga, hata watu ya kanisa walisema hiyo mambo isikuwe tu kwa parliament pekee, pia irudi nje, wako na mambo ile wameona wanataka yarekebishwe.
Elsewhere, a section of Fafi residents in Garissa County have held a peaceful demonstration to demand the immediate suspension of all projects of a World Bank-sponsored program in the area, accusing its officials of corruption in duplication of projects. They also claimed those implementing the projects were favoring certain areas.
The placard-waving demonstrators who moved to the Kenya Development Response to Displacement Impact Project offices said their efforts to seek audience with the Garissa County officials have been futile and now want the Nairobi office to intervene.
We are concerned, sisi tunalilia kwa World Bank ya kwamba shida zetu iwetimishwe na tusikizwe na tuambue the way forward, because hawa watu wanaporesha ofisi na nidhamu na dasturi hawana.
They are pushing for the disengagement of all community mobilizers and community facilitators, whom they accuse of working in cahoot with the project officials in Garissa to defraud the community.
Tunaomba the government should concern, the county commissioner should intervene, the MP of the area should intervene, the MCV of the area also should intervene, and all the administrative matter, and we want peace.
They demanded the replacement of all the officials at the Garissa office.
We want peace. We want peace and dialogue if there is anything. We are not rogue people.
Addressing the press outside the project offices after presenting their petition to the office of the Garissa County Commissioner, the demonstrators led by Issa Dubat claimed the project had veered off its mandate of addressing the impact of forced displacement on communities that are hosting refugees. Contacted for comment, a senior official with KDRDIP who requested for anonymity termed most of the allegations as politically instigated. The Kenya Development Response to Displacement Impacts Project is a national government initiative supported by the World Bank to improve lives of the refugee hosting communities in the north of the country. Tilio Marco for Lunchtime News.
And the Kenya Revenue Authority and officers from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, Economic and Commercial Crimes Unit have netted an illegal consignment of cigarettes worth 32 million shillings at an estate in Kahawa West, Roysambo constituency in Nairobi County. It is reported that KRA has been following leads of a fake cigarette scandal or syndicate for 2 months after it got wind of smuggling through the Busia-Kitale border points. Also seized were counterfeit KRA stamps and Uganda Revenue Authority stamps. Already, the DCI officers have arrested one suspect who is assisting with investigations. And elsewhere, residents of Kambiri in Shinyalu, Kakamega County have been left dumbfounded after a tree that allegedly fell 2 years ago was found standing tall. It is alleged that the fallen tree had been bought and was set to be cut into timber.
Shock and disbelief for residents of Kambiri in Shinyalu, Kakamega County.
Chini. Nimeshangaa vile hii muti ilianguka msali kasirika ama nini. Nashangaa ni mtu mwenye aliamushia muti ni mtu ama ni nani. Ama huyu msali vile hii muti ilianguka chini alikasirika alafu amerudi pole pole maamusha. So niko kwa mshangaa sana.
Sasa ndio tukapata hiyo habari ya miti. Tulisituka. Hata hatukuwa na nguvu. Kwa maana kiti kitendeka hivi kwa area, hawa kiti kitendeka hivi kwa poma, kwa maana poma zetu ndio hizi. Sasa tulishangaa sana.
They claim this Elgon teak tree has been lying on the ground for 2 years.
Good Friday mchana saa 5 hapo nienda nikakata hapo mti kwenda kupikia. Lakini sasa kurudi Saturday napata mti umeamuka na imekuwa mshangao kabisa. Nashangaa kutokile wakati mpaka saa hii mti inaamuka yenyewe, nini ambayo inaendelea?
Basi hiyo miti iliamuka tangu siku ya Jumamosi, siku ya kufufuka kwake Yesu. Basi nafikiri labda au malaika au mashetani wanapitia ndani, hatujui.
The residents claim the tree had attracted 2 businessmen who are willing to buy it as timber.
Machabu ilikuwa shocked siku ya leo kusikia hiyo miti yenyewe mlikuwa mnanunua huko imaamuka. Yenyewe nikakuja nikashuhudia. Ikawa ni machabu Mwenyezi Mungu. Miti kama hiyo kuamuka hivyo na ni kama tulikuwa tumeangukia cold. Mti wa Elkontik sio mbao tu rahisi kuipata tu hivi. Cold yetu imeenda. So ni hivyo, labda ni Mwenyezi Mungu alikuwa na mpango hiyo miti isitumika kwa saizi.
It is alleged the owner of the land wanted to sell a piece of land, but his children refused, leading him to place a curse on the property. Ruth Wamboi for Lunchtime News.
Very interesting story there from Kakamega by Ruth Wamboi. That brings us to our first break on Lunchtime News, but don't go too far. We'll be back in just a bit.
Kupata sikiza tune hii ya missed call, bonyeza *811 *961 hash.
Juzi mimi ninakuja, ninatoka nje, ninawacha simu hapo, nikirudi kutoka raundi napata 4 missed call ya kutoka kwa bibi. Nikimuuliza ulikuwa unapiga unasema nini? Ananiambia eti alikuwa ananipigia, aniambie nimesahau simu. Kumbe bibi ananipenda na mimi.
Ili kupata sikiza tune hiyo ya missed call, kama sikiza tune yako, bonyeza *811 *961 hash. *811 *961 hash.
Sasa
dala huku niambia mtoto mrembo miti ya malaika jameni, da laini mashallah.
Ninyi bado mko pamoja?
Afande, ni mambo gani unaongea? Hatuje kwa pamoja.
Namaanisha kama jana.
Wala.
Fadlan maallim. Nipe muda wa kufikiria ndugu yangu.
Maikuwa kuua, ilikuwa pesa.
I was listening to things that were just amusing and like, really? Okay, yes, you say that I gave you money. What money?
You know, when a murder happens in a family, you know, a spouse has died, the obvious automatic suspect is the other spouse.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with Lunchtime News. Now, a 17 million shilling water project has been launched in Daba village in Garemara ward of Isiolo County to cushion locals against the adverse effects of climate change. The project, which has been funded by the Korea International Cooperation Agency and the World Vision Kenya, is expected to reduce the distance traveled by area residents in search of the precious commodity.
Na kila ward ambayo iko hapa Isiolo imefaidika kwa sababu ya World Vision. Tumesikia jina ya Oldonyiro, tumesikia jina ya Eremet ambayo iko Burat, Garemara ambayo tuko hapa pia leo. mpaka upande wa Garbatula na Merti, World Vision imeshughulikia. Na wengi wenu ambao mko hapa pia tunajua mmefaidika kwa sababu ya World Vision.
We want to work with the Kenyan government, align with the Kenyan government cooperation programs, and hopefully we can give them Koreans experience in this sector, and then I hope that many people can benefit from KOICA's and Korean government program in the future.
Tumeshimbiwa maji na World Vision na tunafurahia sana vile tumepata maji kwa World Vision ama kwa kampuni ya World Vision.
Colonel retired Joseph Gishuhi Kingori was a United Nations military observer who was present when a key town in Bosnia, Srebrenica, was captured by Bosnian Serb forces in July of 1995. Colonel Kingori also testified in the trial of Ratko Mladic, a Bosnian Serb former military officer who was later found guilty of crimes against humanity and sentenced to life imprisonment. Here is his account of the Srebrenica massacre on Military Tales. When Colonel Joseph Kingori was selected to go to Yugoslavia in October of 1994, he did not anticipate what the future would look like.
As a military observer, they are different from the normal fighting force because you don't go there armed. You go there just with your pen and book. But of course, you gotta go a certain course to make sure that you don't do what you are not supposed to do.
Colonel Kingori was among 3 Kenyans from the armed forces that were sent into the war-torn Yugoslavia.
And Bosnia itself was very volatile. And the place that was posted was called Srebrenica, deep in the forest, and where fighting was continuous.
Yugoslavia was now going through a series of political upheavals and conflicts, a period of political, economic crisis and war.
After the death of the then president of Yugoslavia, who was called Joseph Broz Tito, after he died, the republics there that formed Yugoslavia decided to break. But then they were told, why break? They talked with each other and they agreed they should not break, but they should have a rotational presidency. So the one who started was from Serbia. After he finished his 5 years, he decided not to leave. And so these others tried to force him to leave.
In July of 1995, Bosnian Serb units overran the Dutch UN protection zone at Srebrenica and demanded openly that all Muslims leave Srebrenica.
They came in, and they came over up to the compound, and they requested to talk to us, and we went out there, we talked. We agreed that they are not going to harm those people who are inside there. But later on, they started separating men from women. Yeah? They left the women inside there, but the men and the bigger boys, they were taken and they kept them in a compound. By that time, the UN is deciding on how to evacuate these people, because we were discussing with them and they were telling we are preparing. We sent vehicles on this day to pick those people, to take them to another area in Croatia.
General Ratko Mladic, the general of the Serbian army, declined and offered to transport them himself.
After we told the UN system about that, they said no, we are going to pick them ourselves. We told Mladic the same, and he said no, I'm in charge here, so I'm going to take them. Later on, the UN agreed, let them take them. And they took the women first towards Tuzla, and they later on said, now we are taking the men towards Tuzla. Fortunately, the men never reached the destination. And we didn't know when we were inside there, because when the men were taken, the last bunch was taken, we had to leave the whole UN, that is us as military observers and also the Dutch battalion. We had to leave that area.
The Bosniak men and boys had been murdered and buried in a mass grave.
We were told that in a way that we could not believe it, because some of them, we knew them. Like myself, I really felt it. I knew many of them, and they were good people.
It was then declared a massacre, having killed more than 8,000 Bosniak men and boys in and around the town of Srebrenica during the Bosnian War.
And ICC, International Criminal Court, organized itself, and cases started, against the Serbs who could have done that, and especially the military, the Serbian army. And I was called to go to write a statement. In fact, I didn't go to The Hague that time. The lawyers requested to come and discuss it with me here in Nairobi.
That was the first of a series of testimonies that Colonel King'ori would give.
And I went to The Hague to give evidence against General Kristich.
Throughout the course of his case, Colonel King'ori traveled severally to The Hague, even after his retirement from the military.
In between, he had even gone to give evidence against their president.
The UN Criminal Tribunal eventually indicted more than 20 people for their involvement in the Srebrenica massacre.
General Kristich, I think he was jailed for, 30 years or something like that. General Ratko Mladic actually was jailed recently for life. The president of Serbia that time also was taken to the court, to The Hague. When I was just about to go and give evidence against him, and I was cleared, I was ready to go there, the guy killed himself in the cell.
Moving on, residents of Shakahola village in Chakama location, Magarini sub-county in Kilifi County have lauded the construction of a road that links the village to the Malindi-Savo highway. They say the 8-kilometer road will facilitate timely transportation of farm produce to markets and cushion them from losses. However, the residents expressed concerns that persistent invasion of their farms, marauding elephants straying from the Savo National Park will greatly affect the harvest. Led by area member of County Assembly Samson Zia, they appealed to the Kenya Wildlife Service to drive away the jumbos from farms and back to the Savo National Park.
Hali ya ndovu bado katika hii Chakama location bado ndovu wanasumbua, kwa sababu hii sehemu ya huku Chakama na Shakahola kidogo wamepungua, lakini kuanzia Katsuhanzala kuenda Kisiki, Katanahakei, Mchekenzi, Ruruma, Kulalu na Bakai, sehemu ya Garisemuke, huko kote hata leo wameweza kuingia kwa mashamba wakisumbua sana.
Kwa tukipanda kama ni mahindi mabichi ambayo ni ya kuuza au mboga, tunapanda lakini hazitaenda mahali popote, zinabakia kuoza huko shambani. Lakini hivyo livyo tunaonelea vile livyo barabara inatengenezwa, sisi nasi tutatoka huko kwa tukawe kama wale wenzetu ambao wako huko.
All right, let's take a look at the day's business, where members of parliament are calling for a review of power purchase agreements with electricity generators to ultimately reduce the retail price of electricity. They argue that the power purchase agreements were initially negotiated in favor of electricity generators who are paid even for not generating and supplying power to the end consumer. The legislators who are debating the cost of electricity motion also called for a review of the electricity distribution chain with a focus on what they termed as high system losses.
There are so many costs, so many taxes, so many items. If you look at the cost of the unit that you pay, it is almost a quarter. But 3/4 of that bill is actually taxes and fuel and a lot of things that actually do not concern the production of the consumption of the power.
So that any government officer who purchases transformers that are faulty, any government officer that makes the taxpayer lose money should be held personally liable. And I think these are areas that we are able to close up. Then we'll be able to make power efficient for our country. We'll be able to utilize power at a cheaper cost.
I begin to wonder whether these people are useful to Kenyans in the manner we expect and in the manner they supply.
First of all, the contributors whom I've listened to have talked about industrialization in regard to the effect or the impact that the cost of increased electricity has in production.
And immediately we have illegal connections. That's why for the past few months we've had more than 15 fire cases in the constituency that has been caused by illegal connections.
The Agriculture Finance Corporation says it needs 11 billion shillings to adequately advance credit to farmers. Managing Director George Kubai says there is a huge appetite for credit among smallholder farmers due to expensive farm inputs, and there is need for more allocations from the National Treasury to cater for the demand to increase agricultural production.
The demand for our loans is there. AFC is not a commercial, it's not a commercial entity like the other commercial banks. We are a government and development finance institution, and we are the lenders of the last resort in terms of matters agriculture. Currently, we are the cheapest in the market at 10% on a reducing balance, that's annual. So basically, with more resources, and that's why we are appealing for more resources to AFC, because the more resources that comes our way, we have an immediate pipeline through which the same can be deployed.
We want to encourage our farmers to take advantage of the facility that AFC is offering, so that they are able to, one, for those farmers who are affected by drought in the livestock sector, to restock their animals back so that they're able to continue with the livestock production.
Since the government recognizes agriculture as a serious entrepreneurial activity, we are going to help farmers finance their inputs through loans from AFC.
Break, but stay with us. We'll be back with more.
As I tell you truly, oh, I love you. Can we fall in love like we did before?
She's so beautiful and true. She rocks my world. Don't call anymore. I'm still thinking about you, and you found somebody new. You'll never find a love like mine. Matter where you go. I'm living a dream, yeah.
Oh, pretty me. My face now grown a tree. Oh, pretty me.
Sasa
Dala. Ukuniambia mtoto mrembo miti ya malaika jameni. Da. Laini mashallah.
Ninyi bado mko pamoja?
Afande za ni mambo gani unaongea? Tuje kwa pamoja.
Namaanisha kama jana.
Wala.
Fadlan Maalim. Nipe muda wa kufikiria ndugu yangu.
Welcome back. This is still Lunchtime News. Engineers Board of Kenya is undertaking disciplinary hearings for 20 engineers who are involved in the collapsed buildings across the country. If found to be non-compliant, relevant sanctions will be effected against the engineers under the Engineers Act 2011 and the Engineer Rules 2019, including suspension of licenses.
We are investigating or having a disciplinary hearing for engineers who are involved in building collapses all over the country, not necessarily in Kiambu or Nairobi. They were engaged by the developers and NCA, when they did their report, they found them culpable and reported them to us.
Chance of being taken to court, especially when there are fatalities. You know, people have died there. So, and if it is found that really there was a mistake on their part, especially not involving, you know, professionals, then they are liable and they can also spend time in jail.
We should have a ratio of one engineer serving a community of about 5,000 people. So in our country, if you take we have a population of 50 million, then we require at least 10,000 engineers so that you can have an engineer in every village.
We are also looking at measures where we go and we try to assist the engineer to comply. Where we see there's a gap, either in training or the way you're running your business, that is something that we are also doing. So we can visit you and tell you, you see the absence of, you're not doing a proper supervision.
And in sports, Chelsea will be looking forward to getting back to winning ways after a disappointing 1-0 loss to Wolves last weekend when they travelled to take on Real Madrid in their first leg of the UEFA Champions League quarter-finals at Santiago Bernabeu. Meanwhile, Manchester City took a giant stride towards the Champions League semi-finals with an outstanding 3-0 win to overpower Bayern Munich